Today on the Cooligans, we're going to be joined by Alyse LaHue.
Wow.
Sky Blue FC general manager.
That's right.
We've never spoken to a general manager. We don't even ask to speak to the manager.
No, not at all. We're like, we'll just take it with the hair and the food. We also got a lot more that and even more on this episode of the Cooligans. Yeah, baby!
Let us go. Our voices have still not returned from our trip to Baltimore. Okay, we'll get there one day.
Most people just lose their bags on a trip to Baltimore. Not us.
No,
we lost our voices.
It's all the crab we ate.
Oh, too much.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. We are the Cooligans. My name is Christian Polanco.
Yes, it is, and I'm Alexis Guerrero.
All right, we are your favorite stand-up comedians that host the funniest soccer show that you have ever seen.
This is by far the funniest, but it's not just that.
It's not just that.
It also happens to be the gulliest. You know how that goes.
And that's right. And it's going to get even gullier today because we are joined by an incredible guest.
I am so excited to have this person in.
I mean, it's not only just a great guest, but it is a perfect timing, right? Because
absolutely.
This couldn't have even, this is incredibly serendipitous.
Right.
Because this is the rock star of the NWSL right now.
I mean, this is the rock star of soccer right now.
Okay, sure. Well, she's starting a music career. That's why I mentioned the rock.
Yeah. I mean, because at the NWSL draft, she was air guitaring the whole time. I might have made that up. But she is the GM, and as I like to say, the mover and the shaker, especially after this past week, of Sky Blue FC. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one, the only, unless you're driving, put your hands together for Alyse LaHue, everybody!
Alyse, hello.
Oh, hello. Huh? I don't know where to start after all that. Thank you for the intro.
Well, tell us when the album is coming out. Yeah.
It's like our league schedule. I can't tell you yet, to be fair.
Already blowing smoke!
Alyse, I've been dying to talk to you because especially the last couple weeks, so much has been going on, not just with Sky Blue FC, but with the league, and you have been involved. You were working with the Red Stars, like you've been clearly involved with the league for a long time. Let's probably just start with what happened over the draft. And the NWSL draft was Thursday last week, and a bunch of...
And you won.
And you won.
You won the draft.
You won you signed a couple players, made a lot of trades, got money. I mean, everything seems to be going very well. What was that like for you, handling that whole process?
Tiring.
Okay.
In short, long week. Obviously, a lot of planning leading up to the draft. And as I say, you've got to be nimble to the process because you never know what's going to happen. You know, we had been in Pew's a player we had been targeting, and we got to a point where, it looked like the Spirit were going to hold on to her for 2020. Mm-hmm. Came about draft morning that reopened again. So, again, being nimble to the process. And it was a big surprise for us to have her come back on the table essentially after we had already moved our number 2 and 3 picks into a different situation. So for us, just really exciting to have that open up, and we jumped at it, took that opportunity, and like you said, I think we're stoked coming out of the draft when you can get your top target and a draftee that we were looking at in Evelyn Vienne, pick up Mal Pugh, and then also get some allocation money as well. It's an exciting day.
When you go into it, and I don't think I've ever seen this before, regardless of the sport of the league, where you had a reporter embedded with you during that process, where normally most GMs are like, no, you can't hear how the process works. You're like, get in here. This is what I'm eating for breakfast. This is who's texting me. Look at this, memes. I heard you big with the memes.
Yeah, shouts to Meg Linehan, from The Athletic.
Who did an incredible article.
Yeah, it was a great article. Yeah, she's been on our show before.
She said it was exhausting, so I can't imagine what it was like for you. She was just watching.
I don't know what that means. She was exhausted by following us, but
meaning it was like it was never ending. It's like a big process.
It is. Yeah, it was a lot to follow. I couldn't keep up with most of it, to be honest, and the texts and the calls and everything that relates. When you have the 2 and 3 pick, and you kind of already have an idea who's going number 1, and Portland's not moving that. I think we were the queens of the ball at that point, having the 2 and 3, and a lot of people were interested in them. So. it was, it's terrifying a little bit to have a reporter come in, you know, any of that information you don't want to get out in advance, but I've known Meg for a long time, and she's the best of the best at what she does. So
100%.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. So if anyone was going to tell the story, it's nice to have her as part of it.
Yeah. Now, maybe this is something you don't want to reveal, but how much did you plan ahead, and what is the result? With the results of the draft, how close was that to what you thought would happen?
Yeah, I think outside of the Pew trade, we went in with a plan in terms of the players that we were looking at, and it went pretty true to form, even with that movement. So Evelyn Vian was always our top target as a team. We were lucky to have her in the 5 slot when we picked up. So it went pretty much according to plan outside of that. Maybe a player or two we were looking at that fell off the board because we obviously picked up Pew in that trade, which we'll happily do. No issues there.
Yeah.
That's not a problem to be nimble with that. But otherwise, it was rolling with the changes on the day. But we still got the top player we were looking at and a couple of the other players that were high on our list. So we're happy with it.
Incredible, awesome. Yeah, and I guess I'm curious about the vision based on with the draft and the vision for Sky Blue and how you guys want to play. I've never spoken to a general manager about how to run a team. I'm curious.
We got a lot of ideas, Bob, in case you're interested.
I am.
We yell a lot into these cameras.
I'm curious how much of the draft and that day affect when the opportunity to get Mallory Pugh arises. Are you like, okay, this might change tactically what we do, but it's Mallory Pugh. We gotta move forward. Do you have to convince the owner or anything like that?
Sure. I mean, even with Kaylee Reel, player we picked up from Penn State in the draft, we didn't think she'd be available there. And to be honest, we're pretty solid at the center back position. But to have a player of that caliber that dropped to that point in the draft and we didn't expect her to be there, she was somebody we had looked at but just didn't think she'd be available. So it was one of those cases where it's like, we can't pass up this player right now. We've got to go with it, and we'll make adjustments as we go along with our roster. There's still, you got to get through preseason and see how everybody comes in and how they're doing. And it's a long season ahead of you. So you want to make sure that you've got some choices in each position.
Because those are the two ways to draft, right? You take the best player available, or you take the one that best fits your system. Your mindset is pick the best available.
At that point in the draft, yeah.
At that point in the draft,
yeah,
there's so many variables. It's so exciting.
It is.
And
I would be trading everything. I mean, I just want to be, making moves.
It's like just somebody text me.
I need some action. This is why I don't gamble.
It is like the energy of the draft, especially. I loved Meg's article because it felt like it's like a
movie.
It felt like a screenplay for The West Wing. You know what I mean? It felt like a script. It was.
Do you plan to come in and yell at everyone at one moment just to ratchet up the excitement?
No,
does that happen?
No, we're my crew's pretty laid back, honestly. Freya, our head coach, she and I get along really well. Marsha, our technical advisor, we're just loving what we do. We get along. It's like this banter, right? When we get together and we're talking, obviously we're serious and we're talking about the future of the club, but we all get along so well. So I think it makes it fun and relaxed for us, and we enjoy the process. And
what if you got to fire somebody? Everyone can't be your friend.
That's true. Hopefully won't get to that point.
Obviously, hopefully not.
But I think some of the humor came across hopefully in the article.
Yeah,
we're usually bantering and joking. We've got to keep it when you're under that much stress in the process. You've got to keep it lighthearted. Yeah.
All right. Okay, we'll be back with more Alyse LaHue right after this.
That's right. We're back here with Alyse LaHue, GM of Sky Blue FC in the NWSL. Now, the NWSL has this sort of allocation money, right? But it's very different than what some of the fans might know from MLS. So how exactly does the allocation money work? Is that money that comes from the league, and then you're allowed to use that? Are you allowed to you've traded for that in some instances, right? Are you allowed to say how much each team gets?
I believe it's public. We have a $300,000 we can put in, so that's essentially out of our own salary cap.
Right.
It's our own money we'd be spending above and beyond the regular salary caps. There's certain players that qualify for allocation money that we could use that pool of 300 on, but you can also trade it to other teams. So that's where we ended up getting some allocation money in this draft.
And what are the characteristics of the players that you can use it on?
It's like international players, and then there's a list of bullet points that if a player meets a certain number of them, like how many national team caps they've had, how long they've been in the league, things like that.
Okay.
Do you consider the marketability, and this is league-wide, this doesn't have to be Sky Blue FC, a GM, do you have to consider the marketability of the player? Like, at any point, you'd be like, yo, what do their Instagram followers look like? It's kind of a joke, but at the same time, that's important for a growing league, is how, like, we were talking to the GM, or not the GM, the vice president of Bayern Munich, and he was like, yeah, when we brought in Philippe Coutinho, he had more followers than we did as a club. That became important for us. Is that something you consider? Because that is something it's a big, strong set of the player pool that NWSL pulls from.
Yeah, I think obviously the national team players have typically a larger following.
They're stars.
They're stars on virtue of the media that they get. So, bringing in a player even like Mal Pugh, obviously she's going to have a lot more followers than a typical player within the league. I think the rest of the players that are non-national team players don't often get as much attention unless they play for another national team. So certainly we look at it, but I think it's also our responsibility to make sure that fans know our roster top to bottom and get to know our players. I feel a deep responsibility to put them out there and make sure we're doing our part.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite things about you and what you do, because you also have a great Twitter account, and you are very vocal, and you connect with a lot of the fans. But
You're very online.
I'm online.
Sure. Yeah. It's the future, I promise. But you
got a lot of AOL CDs. Got a couple thousand hours.
Just giving them out at games. Hey,
you take one, huh? Email me.
But no, you posted recently about getting help for the players about their websites, building websites and things like that, and just hearing your feeling like you have a deep responsibility to the players to kind of help them do that and handle that as part of it's sort of becoming a part of their job. So is this a common general manager role, right? It doesn't seem like that's necessarily the case, but I feel like you're doing a service not to just the league, but for the sport as well.
Yeah, I think I have to apologize to all the people that reached out offering help. I got so inundated by the community.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so great about women's soccer. It is such a tight-knit community, and so many
Absolutely.
people are willing to help that all you got to do is put the word out there. So I apologize to all the people I haven't responded to yet, because I had so many people reach out saying they wanted to help the players, and I've talked to several of them, as many as I could before the draft. But yeah, I feel like if you just put things out there, folks want to help the players. They want to be involved. They want to see this sport grow and this league grow. So for me, being transparent, being open, using social media as a tool to interact with fans, I think is really important, especially on a team like Sky Blue. We're really trying to get back to the community and make sure that they feel like this is their club. I always say I'm just a conduit. I'm just in a role where I'm here to serve the fans and to make sure that they know this is their club and they have a big say in where it goes.
Yeah.
I want to say, I don't agree that you're just a conduit, because you've done something that I don't think I've seen. When we first went to the draft, the feeling around Sky Blue compared to where it is now.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, it's been huge. The jump, the feeling behind the club. You went from a player saying they didn't want to play at Sky Blue to now it's the hot spot. That's where people want to go. How did you turn that around? Give yourself some credit. Bruise yourself on the shoulder blade by patting yourself on the back.
You did it all yourself.
It's only you.
It's all me.
Yeah. You heard it here first, folks. No, how did that happen? And if it wasn't just you, that's fine. But how? How is it that somehow you were able to turn around the perception around this club so quickly? Because it really is now. Now you're at Rebel Arena for the full year. Everything is so exciting and fresh and new.
Yeah, I mean, when I came in, Tammy Murphy, one of our owners, she had been sort of a silent owner. She came in at the same time I did. And I think it was really just a matter of saying, like, hey, here's the things I see. Here's where Sky Blue needs to improve. And she said, okay, let's do it. Let's figure it out. So having a partner to go and through this process that was on the ownership level that said, maybe we didn't realize the club was so far behind where the rest of the league was, and going, we want to be the preeminent club in NWSL and one of the top clubs in the world, and seeing that vision. Mm-hmm. So I think it's one thing for me me to say these are the things we need to do, but having the backing behind it to be able to do that is the second part of it. So definitely have to give our owners, and especially Tammy, who's the First Lady of New Jersey, credit for stepping up to this with me in this process. And they've let me run a bit. I think it probably scares them sometimes, certainly when I do the behind the scenes articles. And I'm pretty transparent. I'm very open. I've been slapped on the wrist many times.
Alyse, what are all these drones following you? It's a thing we're doing. Don't worry
I just say, don't worry, the fans are going to love it. It's okay, right? But we always said it was gaining back the trust of the fans. That was it. That was our goal as a front office staff. And I know that sounds like a simple statement, but it permeated everything we did, was gaining back the trust of the fans. So I hope in everything we did as a front office at Sky Blue that we showed that, and that's what we were trying to do, and we're earning it back. And I say we're still in process. It's not done. I still have a long way to go. I have a lot more goals to reach at Sky Blue. So we're going to keep plugging along. And again, having the owner's support to do that is integral in that process.
And we should, Alexis mentioned it briefly, but moving to Red Bull Arena permanently, wild. I mean, this is a huge move, and you had done, I believe, 2 games last season. We went to the first one, and it was incredible. There was tons of people there. Frankly, how the hell did this happen, right? Like, I know it took a lot of work. The speculation was like that. I guess it was a difficult thing to make happen, or that maybe Red Bull weren't super interested or intrigued at first. I don't know the details, but was it a bigger mountain to climb than we may know, than the public knows?
And also, you could lie and make it seem like you did an amazing thing. You know what I mean? Feel free.
Yeah, all alone. It was me.
Yeah.
No, when I came in as interim GM last April with Tammy, one of my targets was getting into Red Bull Arena and getting in that season, which obviously is difficult once your schedule's been announced and you already have everything set. But I was determined that we were going to get in that season, at least to sample it, because I knew we needed to look towards the next venue for 2020. So the process started basically right when I came in, and it certainly wasn't a quick process. When your schedule's already out and you've got everything planned, it can be very difficult. Red Bull's schedule was obviously set. So it took a lot of conversations between both Tammy and I with Red Bull, and luckily they became willing partners in the process to sort of let us sample it and to come in and give it a try. And I believe we had great success on the first game, and that proved we could come back and do it again. We did those games on really short notice. I think we had about 12 days to sell tickets, so to get just over 9,000 for one, just over 8,000 for the other, to me showed that the community was ready for us to be there and to be closer to New York City in a more densely populated area. So those were sort of our proving grounds to show that we could do this. We could do this for a whole season. And I think it helped Red Bull to have that sampling with us as well.
Yeah.
How far? Because, I mean, you're now close to where I grew up. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, right? And the way I look at it is, like, I feel like not enough is done to reach some of those communities like Newark, New Jersey. When you look at Red Bull and you look at NYCFC, they're starting to do those things. But when you look at NWSL, I feel like NWSL, especially Sky Blue, you're so much closer to the community. And I think it's because it feels like much more of a personal connection with the fans. How close do you think NWSL clubs are to academies? And is that something you're looking for to the future? I know NYCFC has a girls' academy. How close do you think, let's say, Sky Blue is to having a Sky Blue academy?
Yeah, we haven't had to really take it on ourselves, but around the league, you're seeing teams start to build their own academies and have good success with that. For us, we've had some partners through the years, and New York Soccer Club is one of our current partners through the DA, the Girls Development Academy. So we've been able to partner with existing clubs, and that makes more sense for us now that we're in a transitionary and growing phase. So I can obviously focus on other aspects of the business. I think long term, the league would like us, to have our own academy. But for right now, I love having the local partners we have, and it allows us to integrate with a lot of youth teams and youth clubs who obviously through the years have been the bread and butter of our league, families and their kids that play soccer. But I think you've also seen we're growing as a league and expanding and having Budweiser come on as a partner. And for us, we just had our first adult soccer camp. I know you guys weren't able to attend, so we're going to have another one. So
I'll be there.
We'll have you at the next one.
What's the EMT's situation like?
we had a trainer there.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
We know better.
Yeah. Paddles nearby. Actually, we got more with Alyse when we get back.
Okay, welcome back. We are still here with Alyse LaHue.
Yes, we are.
Of Sky Blue FC, general manager, and I'm curious about a couple things. We should talk about your start into this and getting into soccer in itself. I know I've seen you talk about you used to be a coach. You were also the GM for the Chicago Red Stars. While we were in Baltimore, we interviewed Peter Wilt, and he said that I believe he said he gave you your first internship or one of your early ones, which is incredible. So how did you get here? You know, how did it all start?
Yeah, I mean, picture back, it was. You know, I went back and got my MBA because I knew a women's pro league was coming, so I was just biding time a bit and did some coaching, enjoyed it, but I knew I wanted to go into the business side of women's soccer. So
MBA in what?
What's that?
What was your MBA in?
Just a general business with a focus on entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Yeah, so
we're starting to piece together, right? Such a good negotiator.
Seeing the trends there in business for sure. But I say I just stalked the Chicago team. I knew they were going to get a team. This was back, like 2007, 2008. Kept an eye on them. They had a really terrible website with one page and no contact info. So I was just waiting until the contact info, refreshing every day.
Hopefully they update their GeoCities site, you know?
Yeah, it was. So when the contact info went up, I reached out and said, hey, if you need a volunteer, an intern, and I got a call from Marcia McDermott was the general manager at the time, and Peter Wilt was the president, and they said, okay, come in. So it was the start to my career was getting to sit at a table with those two every day and just do whatever they said, but also just listening and learning from them, which is obviously invaluable. And from there I became a ticket sales account rep and just worked my way up from there.
I mean, what a group to listen in on and learn from, especially someone like Peter Wilt, who's like, I think he actually said he started more pro teams than anyone else in history.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Looking around.
And he started your career, and now look at where you are, and I feel like you're just going to keep going. But what was the other question? You had mentioned that the owner, Tammy, is the first woman of New Jersey.
First lady.
The first lady.
She's not the first woman.
First woman ever.
She's one of them.
Yeah, very impressive.
There's a few.
She's the first woman ever in New Jersey. She's kept up pretty well. But she really is the first lady, right?
She is.
Yes. That's great. I thought you were just throwing that in there, like owner, like Eve as the first lady of Rough Riders. Like, no, you really mean this.
Yeah, no, obviously it keeps a very busy schedule, but she was really dedicated and put in the work to help turn the club around with me. And so she's just an integral part in providing the resources and the support that I needed along the way. And she's still heavily involved, obviously. So it's been tremendous to be able to work with her. And obviously she's brilliant in and of herself. So having the opportunity to work with her has been really great for me.
When you got when the Sky Blue job came up, and obviously you must have, when you heard about it, you were like, okay, I don't know. Let me be sure what I'm getting myself into. What was that? What was your impression? And did you really feel like, I think I can turn it around quickly?
Yeah, I had, most people don't know I had been came to the club about a year before I became the interim GM.
Right.
So I'd been working in the background, just kind of focused on revenue and just really kind of auditing operations from behind the scenes and taking a look at things. So I had been through the whole ride of, when things kind of blew up in the media and really listening to the players and kind of getting an ear to the ground and seeing what was happening. So, when Tammy came and asked if I would, take over in the interim GM role, obviously it was something that I had seen enough of the club by that point to kind of have an understanding on what I thought it could be and also some of the challenges that it had. And, I'm older than I look. I've been around a while in women's pro soccer. Obviously was the GM in Chicago for 5 years. So I had a pretty good idea and had been used to working in some larger markets. So I felt like I might be able to do something with it. So
did you ever question if it was too high of a hurdle to
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Because, I mean, for those who may not be following, at the time that you officially took over, it was sort of rough state. It was like it became newsworthy because of how bad it was, or how bad sort of like the feeling around the situation was. And it seemed like something that it could be taken care of piece by piece. It wasn't like this overwhelmingly thing where like people were leaving the club left and right, but it was a situation that was hard to cover. And you certainly looked at that and you thought like, I think I got this.
Yeah, I think again, one conversation with Tammy, and I said, she gets it. She's in it. She's going to do this. And I said, okay, we'll give this a try together. I believed in her, and I believed what she had to say about helping propel this club forward. And I felt like I had enough background knowledge on the league and women's soccer, and also just my interest in the fans, I think, was really crucial to the Sky Blue experience and turning the club around, because I think that's what was missing for so long is the fans really feeling the love and feeling like it's their club and they're a part of it and they have a voice. And that's something that's so important to me. So I think we were a good combination of Tammy and obviously the business side and her willingness to really wrangle the owners and get them to push forward, and then me really wanting to embrace the fans and increase the standards for the players as well.
Yeah, can we call Tammy when we need help? Just a little pep talk.
She's busy.
You are the first woman in New Jersey, so.
Well, hello, you're on the phone with the 1 millionth man of Brooklyn.
I'm curious about that. The issues that Sky Blue was facing were, I guess, specifically last year, were probably a little bit rougher than probably some of the other teams dealt with. But as far as league wide, do you feel like these issues when it comes to accommodations, when it comes to housing, how do you feel like it's being handled in the NWSL in general?
Yeah, I think we saw a huge transition in the owners in the last couple months, and without having a better name, they've been calling it NWSL 2.0 in terms of their greater investment. We saw the salaries have gone up for players, increasing the basement salary, increasing the max salary, adding allocation money. We're now doing housing year-round for players. So I've seen the owners take a greater investment. They hired Octagon to look at our commercial rights, make sure that we're getting on the right broadcast station, looking at all of our partners and sponsors. So I think they've really taken a deep look at the league, increased the standards for the players, which is where you have to start. Make sure we do that. And now looking at all the business operations. Obviously, we have a commissioner coming in soon. So there's a lot of exciting changes going on in the league right now. And I think it doesn't start without all of the owners really going into a deeper investment and wanting to see this push forward.
Is it? Oh, go for it.
I was going to say, do you think a lot of people make a lot of the bump after the World Cup? I don't know. Something about this doesn't feel like it's just the World Cup bounce or the post World Cup bounce. What are your feelings on that?
Yeah, I think without going too feminist on your show, but we're in the midst of a pretty
feel free.
Deep,
no, please.
This is supposed to be comedy.
We ride with you. No, we are as well. So go for it.
I think we're just in a really deep cultural moment right now, especially for women with Me Too and Women's March and everything. Even the national team talking about pay equity. There's a lot of conversations right now from a cultural standpoint going on around women. So I think women's sports has just been able to tap into this greater cultural moment. So I say winning the World Cup obviously is tremendous, and it helps from a media perspective to get more eyeballs on it. But this does feel a lot bigger than just a World Cup win. We're talking about a lot bigger issues for women right now.
Absolutely. I mean, look at how the royal wedding, the crash zone wedding.
Yeah.
Look at the news that made. That wasn't just a World Cup bounce, and we talked about it because we wanted to get invited.
All right, we'll be back right after this, everybody.
I'm Luke Moore from Football Ramble Daily, and I just got gully with the Cooligans.
Okay, welcome back, everybody.
That's right, baby.
We're here with Alyse LaHue, General Manager of Sky Blue FC. We're learning so much, and I want to ask a couple more things because
we're learning how much we could never be GMs.
Exactly. We don't have MBAs, so we got to start there. But I did want to ask about the fact, it's also league-wide, you are one of two female general managers, and there's also only one female head coach in NWSL right now. I been following you on Twitter for I believe about a year. You are someone who is not just a GM, right? I mean, without a doubt, I feel like you have starting to become this role model for a lot of people, not just women, just a lot of people in sports. Do you feel any sense of pressure or responsibility for? I don't want to say necessarily a movement per se, but about doing things to kind of showing everyone what can be done by women in the league.
Yeah, no, thanks for saying that. But I think for me, it's just trying to do the right thing and being a nice person. I try to keep things super simple.
See, Alexis?
Oh,
Yeah,
is that all you have to do?
it's the key.
Yeah. Well, I refuse to do it.
No, I think, I've always believed in the see it, be it model, right? So if there's no women in these high level roles, how are especially young women, or not even talking about youth, but women that are in college now that want to see themselves in these roles, I think it's important that they see somebody. I think it's also why, for me, transparency and openness and being open on social is really important, to have that communication, because, there's no model I'm following. I'm making it up as I go as much as anybody else, to be fair. So I'm waiting patiently for the next, young woman to come in and do a better job than I am, or the next player to come in and be a general manager and take over and do a much better job than I've ever done. So for me, it's just about being authentic and keep it simple with the fans and be as open as you can in the process.
And
I like to be mean while complicating things.
make it messy.
Really shake it up. Yeah.
You didn't play professionally, and a lot of general managers often are. Was that ever an issue in any interview or anything like that, like about questioning how much, quote unquote, you knew about the game?
I just make sure I surround myself with a good technical advisor. So,
okay.
It's always, I think, as they always said, a good leader will surround themselves with somebody smarter than them in every position. So I think that's most important. So I don't have to be the expert on all things. So luckily, Marcia McDermott's our technical advisor, and I mentioned her before as my first boss and sort of my role model as a GM. And now I'm in a position where I'm able to hire her to work with me. So we get to continue our careers together, which is exciting. So, no, I've never had an issue with that along the way. I think, again, there hasn't been many women's pro leagues, so the reality is there's not that many women that have played professionally, just if we're looking at the numbers through the years, regardless.
Yeah. And okay, so we have a couple questions from our Gully Squad members who are also huge fans of you. And I want to start with this one. This is from Laura McCoy, who I believe you met at the party that we had in North Carolina. But she has specifically said, how is the allocation money being used besides on player salaries? And she also adds a note. She says, tell her she is an epic GM and that I've loved and know. I love how she turned her club around.
Well, thank you for that. In terms of using allocation money, it's when you get allocation money traded, you have freedom to use it how you want, essentially. So, for us, we're still active in the international market, and we're looking. We think that's sort of the next step for us. The timing is a little tough. From the time that it was announced, we would be getting allocation money and could go get players maybe beyond $42,000 a year, $45,000 a year. It's kind of late in the process. Obviously, a lot of the international and European teams especially have players locked into multi-year contracts. So we're certainly looking, but the timing of it all makes it difficult for this season. But we're certainly looking in the international market, and I'm going to keep my piggy bank on hand for looking for those types of players.
Do an NWSL $40 million transfer fee. That'd be great.
That'd be huge.
That'd be great.
This is from Peter Garcia, who's another member of Gully Squad. Shouts to Peter. He said, what kind of challenges does Alyse face as a manager when some players do double duty between NWSL and the Aussie W League? And she said, not sure if that's applicable for Sky Blue players, but he knows that Rachel Hill has done that before, who's a UConn grad who moved from Orlando to Chicago this offseason.
Yeah, no, thanks for the question, Peter. I think when I was in Chicago, we had a lot of players that would go down to the W League and play. And I think over time, one of the bigger challenges was just the fatigue, right? You go from our season straight into the W League season, and you essentially you start playing year round. So I think fatigue was the biggest challenge as a manager to manage the process of those players that were just not getting a break at all. And I think over the years, we started to see some injuries from fatigue from that multi-league process. But the W League has been great for the development of a lot of players in the off season and give them a chance to continue to hone their skills.
Yeah, there's you also worked in the WNBA as well, and I had just seen a Players Tribune, the interview with Ali Krieger, Ashton Harris, and I think Brianna Stewart, right? If I'm gonna say- and she had mentioned that people question when the players play in Russia or whatever, and she was just like, why wouldn't I play in Russia? How am I? That's where I will make my money. So it's difficult. You can't fault the player because they're not going to make much money in the league that they're currently in.
You got to go get that bag.
Exactly, you got to get that bag. So at least you got to tell me go get that bag.
Have it real big behind it.
I would love to hear Alyse say, "Go get that bag."
It's
Very
coming
popular in Iowa.
So we got another question from Mike Chiara. He says, "What's the biggest challenge of being the general manager of a soccer club? Is there one move you regret doing or wish you pulled the trigger on?"
I think one of the biggest challenges for me, especially over the last season, we were not only winning back the trust of the fans, but our own players as well. And in that's a long process to navigate.
Sure.
And the proof is in the pudding, right? You can tell them something, but they've got to see it, So, and I'm never one to make any false promises. So I always take the same approach with fans as I do with my own team and my own players. And I think in that process, it's a big roster. It's a lot of players to communicate with. And while I was managing the players and their expectations, I'm also out trying to navigate our own fans and bring them back into the fray. So I think for me, as a manager, that was a good learning lesson for me, was that it just comes down to time, and you've got to really put the effort into each and every individual person. That goes for my front office staff, that goes for players. Everybody needs to feel the love all the time. I think that's really important. So making sure you take that time to really appreciate each and every person, no matter whether they're out with an injury for the whole season or whether they're a starter, treating all the players equally and making sure that they get the attention that they need in this process. I think, again, last season, with it being so hectic and so much going on, that was one area that I wish I had done better on, but I'm learning every year as I go.
Okay, all right.
You ever walk around and say, yeah, because people keep calling you a badass. Do you ever think to yourself, like, yeah. Yeah. Be honest. Never once, not once. You ever looked in the mirror and like, well, you got it.
I give myself pep speeches. I still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
I got to pep myself up every now and then.
New sign for the bag. Get the bag underneath that. I'm a badass.
Okay, we'll be right back with more of these after this.
Yeah, baby, we're back.
Okay.
And we're still here with Alyse LaHue.
Yes, and we're, again, getting highly informed with everything that's going on, with all things Sky Blue and NWSL. I do want to ask some more questions about, let's talk about some of the players that are coming in. And I don't have a list in front of me, but I know, so I want to ask two questions. One about the players that are coming in and some of the players that are leaving. So we know Midge Purse from Portland Thorns, obviously Mallory Pugh, and there's some of the draft picks. I forgot Viennes.
Yep.
Okay, Evelyn Viennes, right?
Evelyn Vienne.
Who else am I missing? There were a couple more moves.
UCLA.
Anumanu as well, Ifeoma.
Yep. So we traded for her. She's been in the league for a few years, so really excited to have her come in as well.
From Reign.
And had 3 other draftees. We were able to still get somebody in every round, which was exciting with all of our trades we had, to still be able to pick up 4 players. So Kaylee Reel from Penn State as well. Picked up a goalkeeper and a local Rutgers player with the number 4 as well. So, it was a
Does your other goalkeeper have weird fears of similar to Kaylin Sheridan's button fear?
Not that I know of yet, but we'll have her on to find out.
Zippers. Like, I can't. What are we gonna do? Hook and eyes? Like, we gotta pick one. All right, guys.
Yes.
So some of those players. So I'm curious about what you expect the team to look like, and as far as what kind of a strategy and tactically how the team's gonna play.
Yeah, I mean, I say having a new coach come in, even though Freya was our interim coach at the end of the year, but that was the last 6 weeks. At that point, it's a little bit of damage control as a as a coach coming in, you just want to end the year on a good note. You're not coming in to switch the whole formation and change things up. So we actually had an off season now where Freya can really implement a plan, and she and I could talk through what we want to look like and how we want to approach the game. And obviously that's allowed us to flip the roster a little bit and add some more talent to it that we think is going to help us, have a more exciting brand of soccer. Hopefully put some more goals in the net. So I think with all of our additions, we've been able to basically improve ourselves across every position, which we're excited about. As I mentioned, we picked up a series of positions through the draft and through trades, and picked up some speed, a little more fierceness with McCall Zerboni in the midfield. She's a veteran player that's been around for a while, so
she just
got a little
courage. They obviously just won.
Yeah, she's a winner. She's been on winning teams for a long time and adds a little bite in the midfield, which is something I think we need. So we're excited. The attributes we were looking for, we've been able to pick up, and obviously we've got to go out there and perform now. But we're excited about what we're going into.
And what influence does Carly Lloyd have over all these decisions? Because sometimes like LeBron James, even though he's not the GM or anything, but everybody's like, if LeBron's not happy, this move is not really going forward. Yeah. But I'm curious how much influence Carly Lloyd had on a lot of these decisions.
Because she's very intense. One of the most intense athletes I've ever come across.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I've known Carly a long time. I worked together in Chicago many years ago when I was in a different role, so I've known Carly for a long time and have a great relationship with her. And she's somebody that I trust to talk to, obviously as part of the game. So when we're looking to make some of these trades, I do talk to her and make sure that she thinks it's a fit as well. She's not going to have a final say in every decision, obviously, but with her being one of our captains and a leader, and just with the career that she's had, that's highly important to us. And a player like Mal Pugh coming in, that's somebody that Carly is absolutely excited about to come in, believes that Mal has so much potential still to reach. And I think great. Carly, as a veteran player that's later in her career, and I say I don't use near the end of her career because she has bionic knees and these amazing ice packs. She's going to go forever. Yeah. Might have another 5 years at Carly, but she's excited also to build a relationship with the younger players and to guide them. So I think we've got such a great mix of old and young on our team, and veterans that just a great set of personalities. I think that's really going to mesh well.
That's great. Yeah, I would take a final say from Carly Lloyd. I mean, she could decide my entire life. If Carly Lloyd was like, in Rebel Arena, no Doritos. That's the rule.
But you heard Carly, right? Get him off the shelf. Do you think Carly do you think she would be more of a coach or more of a GM? You think she'd be more front office or?
That's a good question. Yeah.
You've known her.
I know, right? I'm going to have to. I don't know. She doesn't think that way because she's got so many years left to play, course, right? It's like she's all 100. She's 100% at what she's doing, so she's in it to play.
Do both jobs and play.
Yeah. To be fair,
she's doing trades in the middle of a World Cup game.
All right, we'll be back right after this, everybody.
Yeah, baby, we're back. We are still here with Alyse LaHue. Absolutely incredible conversation so far. One of the things that pops up when it comes to women's soccer is times are changing right now, but in the past, obviously not a great way to earn a lot of money, right? It was very difficult to earn a lot of money at the time. In fact, one story came up of Stephanie McCaffrey, who I believe there was a little bit of overlap there with Chicago with you. She has said that she's going into finance, and her goal, the only reason she's going in there is to earn enough money to buy a women's soccer team in the NWSL. When you view that, when you first watch that, or when you first read that, I should say, the first thing that popped into my mind is like, man, that sucks that she has to do that, she didn't make enough money in her career to be able to just do that right away, or at least be a partner in, like so you see some of the NBA players and NFL players doing. But it's also like, what a great thing that you see someone who's like willing to go out and work just as hard to sort of get in the league, someone who really believes in the league, someone who really is pushing for the league. When you see that, what are your thoughts, and what do you think of sort of some of these former players starting to become owners or wanting to become owners?
Yeah, I mean, my first thought's hell yeah. You gotta, I think, one, having a goal and then putting it out into the world. That's what I always say when I have interns. If you know what you want to do, put it out into the world for as many people to hear, because you never know who's going to help you along the way as part of the process. So, when I walked into, Peter Wilt and Marsha McDermott for the first day, I told Marsha I wanted her job, which was probably a bold sentiment. I probably could have worded it differently.
You're fired.
Yeah, it was just...
give me a job.
They did let me volunteer for free for a few months after that still, so that was good. But yeah, I think it's to be bold. If you know what you want to do, put it out into the world, and I think it's absolutely. She's so bright. I think she's tremendous. I have no doubt she's going to own a team, and if I'm still kicking around, I hope I can work for it one day.
Okay. We have another question from the Gully Squad. This is from Sean Forsyth. He asks, now that we are seeing some international NWSL stars move to English clubs, are you starting to feel the pressure that the success of the NWSL has brought to women's soccer across the world? And how will you cope with the greater competition abroad?
No, I love it. I think the increased standard across the world and the increased investment in the sport just puts more pressure on us to do better. And I think that's really important. If we're the pinnacle league, and I still think from a competition standpoint we absolutely are, and we are the best league in the world, but when other leagues are going to continue to raise the bar, that's going to help us to raise the bar. So this competition is a good thing, and it's a good thing for players. If they've got other opportunities to make money overseas, it's going to make us have to raise the standard of what we can provide to them here at home. So I think it's good for everybody, and fans having the accessibility to tune in now to watch games in England and elsewhere, watch games in Australia in the W League. I think all of this is just a positive for women's soccer.
All right. He did ask another question. He said,
one only.
Sorry, Sean.
Sorry.
I can't help you, buddy.
You're going to get kicked out of Gully Squad.
Can you please give Midge back? Pretty please.
He did say pretty please. Let's start there.
I said one only.
No comment.
Question only.
You know what? It's Midge Purse, which one of the greatest names I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Midge Purse.
Midge Purse.
Yeah.
It sounds authoritative. When you look at some of the rumors of LAFC trying to get a women's team, and like Mia Hamm is there, right? So I'm sure that's a question. And we saw LAFC Slammers do really well at the IFC. ICC, sorry, the ICC.
Great channel,
Futures. IFC also. Maybe you watched it on there illegally. We saw that. And, Atlanta United talking about wanting to have a women's team. What do you think about these sort of MLS clubs wanting to have a women's team, and there seems to be a bit of a holdup? I don't know if you're able to talk about that, but what do you think some of the holdup is, and do you think that that's like a positive for the future?
Yeah, I mean, tremendous amount of interest from a lot of clubs. Obviously, you named two of the bigger cities that have MLS clubs that may show some interest. But there's a lot of teams around the country beyond that have an interest, and cities that have an interest. I think for us as a league, we got to figure out what's the number we're trying to get to, because at some point we may run out of opportunities to bring new teams in if we want to keep the league in a place of parity and make sure that we've got a good standard across the league. So whether that's 14 teams or 16 teams, I think it starts with us deciding what that number is, and then figuring out who's going to be the next 5 cities that come into this league. So it's awesome to see the interest. Obviously, that's important for us, and there's some really, really solid ownership groups on the table. So I think over the next year, 2 years, we're going to see tremendous growth for our league.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and wrap up with Alyse right after this. Okay, we did it.
That's right, we did.
Thank you, Alyse.
You did it, Alyse.
I did it. A real victory.
Alyse, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything you may want to plug? Where can people get season tickets for Sky Blue FC and support the NWSL?
.com.
Okay.
SkyBlueFC.com. Yes, we've doubled our season tickets, so obviously a big turnout. We're excited. We want to double that number from here, so looking forward to the continued support. And, a big shout out to Cloud9, our supporters group that's been with us through thick and thin.
All right,
and excited to have, got the scarf over
right
there.
And I can tell you as well, I will be purchasing season tickets for the Sky Blue FC. So
I'll
you'll
get
see
my
me.
credit card machine out of my bag. We'll make it happen right here.
Send me out some games.
Can I Venmo you?
All right, so at least we always wrap the show very fun way. So again, make sure you follow us at Soccer Cooligans at Fubo Sports, and make sure you follow Alyse LaHue on Twitter. So with that said, for Alyse LaHue, my name is Christian Polanco.
That's right. And for Alyse LaHue, my name is Alexis Guerreros.
And together, what are we?
The Cool